walked in that it didn't look Anglican.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It looked as if we were maybe working for somebody else or something.
Yeah, or open to all as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and so and we have we a young girl said to me even the other day. She said, this studio is the only studio I've ever been to. She's Filipino, and she said where I don't feel like that there's a type of
Mhm.
student, that
Mhm.
there's stereo, like, that they're all like, white girls with curly long hair and
Mhm.
color tights,
Yeah.
or that it's all, one thing or another. And so Bobby and I have worked hard to encourage that diversity, both of the teaching staff and the student population.
Yeah, because I also think that was another thing you were mentioning, which I really liked, and I'm really fighting for that as well. Like at the moment, I'm working with a few yoga teachers, and we want to be like yoga teachers for social and racial justice. So we're kind of very much like what you're saying as well. For me, I've really experienced that as well. Like, why is yoga always about the white, poshy, household women? I mean, I never got it. Like, I think yoga is also a way to and I think what you were saying about like, yoga needs to start addressing certain issues, and especially also social issues. And I think that's a job we have as yoga teachers, I
Right.
feel.
So this is where, so this is, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit because I do think this is important.
Hmm.
However, I think that and this is me also utilizing my experiences working in the American theater for 35 years.
Hmm.
This is a very, very, very important lesson. So theater had always had this idea that, like, we were going to bring theater to the masses and theater to the people and make it available to everybody. It never has really succeeded at that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
quality theater with really wonderful, brilliant actors and really high productions have never made its way to the masses. Why? Shakti, money.
Hmm.
Money matters. So a lot of the answers to developing um, students of color within the very liberal community is offer free yoga to them,
Hmm.
or yoga at a discount. So that was what the American theater did for years too. Like, we got government subsidies to take free theater into public school systems or into situations where we were trying to develop diversity. And it was the subsidies that paid for the event to happen. You never asked for payment from the audience.
Hmm.
Over the, and those programs, I should say, were started in the 1960s. They were actually started by Richard Nixon, believe me.
Okay. Wow.
Was such a he was a Republican. He was corrupt personally, but actually Richard Nixon started a lot of amazing social programs for the poor. He started some programs that you would think that he was a Democrat, a liberal Democrat. So he a lot of these organizations, National Endowment of the Arts, and those kind of things that had these programs were started in the late 50s and early 60s. Over time, what we've actually realized is that offering free theater to the masses only tells the masses that the event they're going to is not worth anything. It's of no monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you pay for it? It's free.
Mm-hmm.
We never developed those big numbers of people coming from ethnic communities in the American theater.
Mm-hmm.
Then you kind of shift focuses on communities, such as I'll give an example of Washington, D.C., an arena stage, which I worked at. I had the pleasure of working at for many times, and working with Molly Smith, the artistic director, amazing woman. But the community, the ethnic diversity of Washington, D.C. is highly African American, but it's also very upwardly mobile.
Mm-hmm.
It's an upwardly mobile community, like Atlanta. And what you find is even at Alliance Theater, where I had the pleasure of working also, is in upwardly mobile communities like Atlanta and Washington, D.C., that you have a diverse audience
Mm-hmm.
because those people have disposable income.
Mm.
And they also, because they have disposable income, they want to support the vision that the intellectual vision that theater brings to their community.
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
Yeah.
So that if you want if there's two types of yoga. If you want to bring yoga in as a social service, like I'm teaching at the rec center, there's no mats, there's no props, there's no nothing, and we're in the basement of a church. That's one type of thing. But if you're looking to have a yoga studio where you walk in and there's like desk staff and there's check-in and there's toilet paper in the bathroom and the bathrooms are clean and the floors are clean and the yoga mats are cleaned for you and the blankets are washed and there's clean towels if you want to shower and there's soap in this soap dispenser and there's air conditioning and if you want that kind of experience, then that costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to start distinguishing. That this idea of the studio experience is a, like going to the theater, it's a experience that costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is, free shows in the park that, the local thespian group puts on, and that's another experience, but but that's not Lion King on Broadway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It will never be. And the same thing is true with, free yoga in the park. It's never going to be the experience that you have in a controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
Where the teacher is monitoring the airflow and is the sound. And, when you're doing the free yoga in the park, you have to think about the dog, the dog that's running around chasing a ball.
Mm-hmm.
And, and it's not saying that one experience is better or worse. They're different.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to distinguish those and distinguish those to communities that maybe have never had the experience of the studio experience. Like, why is this of value?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And why is it different from this over here?
Yeah.
This is the same way we have to say, this is what it's like to go to Hamilton on Broadway.
Yeah.
And this is what it's going to be like when your local high school does it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're going to be different.
Yeah.
Be different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's just the truth.
Do you also feel like for some communities, I feel that a little bit as well. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about. For some communities, it's better also to go to them to teach yoga instead of like the boundary might be too high for them to go into a nice looking yoga studio that might be, I don't know, prices might be high, or in general, I think for some communities, it's actually hard to step into a yoga studio in the first place. So I think maybe some communities even need yoga to come to them. Like, do you feel that as well? Or
was it like the first time you went to a yoga class and you saw somebody put their foot behind their head? Was it intimidating, or was it like, because believe me, this is also that kind of thing. This is that kind of like thing where we're trying to, actually yoga is quite intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so on the physical level, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
The fact that you're doing these things with your body that maybe you never did before.
Mm-hmm.
On a spiritual level, it's intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm asking you to all of a sudden think of the divine instead of this is a fitness class.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's yoga.
Yeah.
It's not Zumba.
Yeah.
Right? then, on a intellectual level, I'm asking you to start to think critically as a yoga teacher. So I'm asking you to do, so this is where yoga and theater feel very similar to me.
Yeah.
As a theatrical person, I'm asking you to come in, sit down, listen to things that aren't familiar to you maybe, think about them critically, and walk away pondering them and learn something new.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to do the same thing in yoga. So yoga is always created in a world where it's familiar and comfortable. It's not yoga.
Yeah.
It's, I don't think that, I don't think that yoga should challenge your understanding of who you think you are. And what your limitations are.
Yeah.
And what you think that your identification is. This is also a good one. As a gay man, so one of the things that used to happen when we opened up early on, and and when people found out we were a gay-owned business, I had several both gay and a lesbian organization, a gay organization, and a trans organization come in and say, would you have a class specially for us? And I said, no, I will not. And that was my answer that quickly as a gay man. Like, why? I said, because that's not yoga. Yoga is you coming in with all of your shit and leaving it at the front door. And coming into this class with other people who have left their shit at the front door. And me in creating a false environment for you where you are, feel safe it's a false safety. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. And you're creating separation in a way as well, of course.
You're creating separation. And so if you want us to come and teach you at the Gay and Lesbian Center, I will ask my teachers if they're interested in doing that. But I will not have it happen in this space where I'm trying to teach about letting down your inhibitions, letting down fear, letting go of your identification with the body.
Yeah, at the door. It's really beautiful. Yeah.
None of them wanted us to come and teach it there. They all wanted to come to the pretty studio and have a service. And I was like, well, then just come to class. Yeah. So and that is me speaking as a gay man.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying that about a community that I'm not a part of. I'm saying that this is how I dealt with my community.
Yeah.
I won't. As a yogi, I won't support this.
Yeah. Knowing, I'm sure you knew where they were kind of coming from because you are gay and you are in that community, but still, I think it's sort of, I have sometimes issues with like, oh, could we do like yoga for women? I'm like, what? That was also something that I never really understood. I'm like, I just want to teach yoga, guys. I mean, I have done a lot of yoga in the trans community, especially in Sydney, where I was living in Australia and stuff. But that was also very much, I would go to their, their houses or even like some centers and stuff because they just didn't feel, and they were very uncomfortable. And going to the studio was just, the boundary was too high. And that, I'm always happy to, the community is there and you want to just be part of that. And I always wanted to be of service of those who really wanted the yoga. So that's a completely different story. And I think it's beautiful what you said.
My advice to studio owners is that if you want to bring diversity into your studio, you have to be leadership.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody who's African American or because your podcast is so global, Black, who comes into your studio and you don't talk to them, you don't welcome them, you don't give them an assist,